top, let's start this hour with that major political battle brewing in Texas. So Democrat state lawmakers there angry over Republican efforts to redraw congressional maps to try and pick up more Republican seats in Congress. They not only left those Texas chambers, they got up and left the state. Those Democrats do not have the votes in Texas to defeat Republican redrawing of maps, but they can stop the vote, and that's what they did. So that is the sound of cheering as those Texas Democrats arrive in Illinois now, welcomed by that state's Democratic governor, business mogul J.B. Pritzker. Pritzker's supportive of the Democrats of Texas and their work to stop the vote. Listen.
You are answering one of the most challenging calls of public service that has ever been asked of you. And you've had to leave behind your families, your full-time jobs, your communities, and you did it to protect the voting rights of the people that you represent and voters all across this nation.
So Texas's House Minority Leader and other Democrats say redrawing Texas congressional maps is a power grab by Republicans and President Trump ahead of next year's crucial midterm elections.
The tool they're using is a racist, gerrymandered map, a map that seeks to use racial lines to divide hard-working communities who have spent decades building up their power and strengthening their voices. And Governor Abbott is doing this in submission to Donald Trump.
There was a time when a Texas governor wouldn't be afraid to tell a president, any president, don't mess with Texas.
Right.
But Greg Abbott is too subservient and too weak to do that to Donald Trump.
And there's blowback from that very governor and also his attorney general, Ken Paxton there, saying on X, the lawmakers who left the state should be, these are his words, found, arrested, and brought back to the Capitol immediately. He added, the state should use every tool to hunt them down. Now, for his part, Governor Greg Abbott took to Fox News, where he threatened Democratic lawmakers with felony charges.
I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock, they can cure themselves of any quid pro quo that would subject them to potential bribery charges.
All right, so let's bring in CBS News political director Fin Gómez in Washington following this one closely. Fin, you just heard the governor. There's a ticking clock here. Those lawmakers have to be back in the State House by this afternoon. In fact, that governor warning they could forfeit their seats, and he's talking those felony charges. What can you tell us about the governor's options here, and do they have any teeth?
Yeah, this Texas standoff, Reed, is turning into a national one, and you've seen the governor there really responding to Texas Democrats heading to Illinois and New York by really amplifying his very tough talk and potential ramifications. He said in that letter earlier essentially saying that real Texans do not run from a fight, but that's exactly what most of the Texas House Democrats just did, rather than just doing their jobs and voting on urgent legislation affecting the lives of all Texans. They have fled Texas. He called these absences as breaking quorum, and utilizing that framework, he's basing it on some non-binding memo by Attorney General Paxton there to say that there are consequences if you do not return, including, as you mentioned, bribery charges. Now, the bribery charges stem from House Democrats saying, Texas House Democrats saying that they've been fundraising off of this, Reed. They've been fundraising off them, not voting, not taking part in this session because of what they call undemocratic and unconstitutional gerrymandering in the state of Texas. But really, it doesn't. I mean, if you look at it, and speaking to some of our experts in the political unit, it does not seem that these efforts, at least from what we can see, have any real teeth to it. But of course, the rhetoric we're hearing is very focused on these potential consequences. I will say two things. One is that they are going to Illinois. I mean, the Texas Democrats went to Illinois, Reed, as you know. That is a state that has faced its own criticism from Republicans and others for their redraw that they did back in 21 that also caused some legal challenges. In response to both Paxton and to Abbott, the Texas Democrats put out one statement with a 4-letter statement, and basically the response was, "Come and take it." And if you recall, that slogan, "Come and take it," is a historical slogan that originated in ancient Greece from when the Spartan king Leonidas was outnumbered by the Persian invaders. But the phrase has deep Texas meaning also because it gained prominence during the Texas Revolution, during the Battle of Gonzales, when Texas colonists were facing the Mexican army, and that became a rallying cry. And again, the Texas Democrats kind of flipping the script now and using that same rallying cry in response to the Texas governor. Reed.
All right. So you take us way back in time for that phrase. But
yeah, I'm going back, man.
You're going way back. But in the recent past, and we know this, Finn, Democrats have done this sort of thing before. Some say it didn't work then, it won't work now. But one of those Texas Democrats said that their resistance then forced Republicans to change their bill at the time, so they counted it as a success. What do you say?
Well, no, I mean, yes, in the sense that, look, what's happened, if you look at history, in the recent past, there have at least been a couple of occasions when Texas Democrats have done the same thing. It essentially delayed the vote, but ultimately Republicans passed their redrawn maps back in 2001. Also in 2021, there was an issue over voting restrictions. It was stalled. That bill was stalled temporarily, but it ultimately passed. And so what this is garnering is both some momentum for Democrats ahead of the midterms, but also national attention ahead of the midterms. And I know we're in August 2025, but a lot of this has the veneer of a political layer that is really at the heart of all of this, including those 5 extra seats, congressional seats that the president's pushing. There really was the nucleus behind this whole Texan effort. Reed.
Well, it's been famously said that all things are political, and perhaps that applies here. Not just a Texas story, though, Finn.
Tip O'Neill.
That's right, Tip O'Neill.
Former Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill.
You and I should be on Jeopardy together.
All politics are local. That's
yeah,
right.
That's right. Other states, though, are watching this closely, maybe thinking of Tip O'Neill's work and words. How could this affect voters in places like California and Illinois?
Well, interestingly enough, I spoke to some top Democratic governors a couple of days ago about this specifically, and just universally, they were all saying, well, we have to counter this by doing something in democratically held states. Majority of them looking to Governor Newsom, the Democratic governor of California, who's potentially initiating his own efforts there. It's a little bit harder, though, just point blank. Essentially, there has to be a voter referendum across the state for it to continue. So it's more difficult. There are more hurdles than you see in Texas. However, I did talk to a Texas Democrat, a congressional lawmaker a couple of days ago also, who basically previewed this, saying, look, this is going to start a domino effect that's going to end up very messy by the end of this, not only on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side. And what you're also seeing are there other Republican-held states that are all initiating the same thing that the Texas Republicans are doing, and that you're seeing that in Florida and Missouri right now, where you're seeing some potential more of this redistricting drawing that could benefit the House Republicans ahead of the midterms.
Well, we understand, Finn, that you also have news of candidates throwing their hat in some races that are pretty key and really take the temperature of where the nation is on politics. Georgia, South Carolina, what have you learned?
Yeah, 2 significant southern states, battleground states, as we know, Reed. And for political junkies like me, these kind of announcements are pretty significant, especially because it really tees off this 2016 midterm cycle. So we've seen a bunch of them in the recent weeks, but more and more they're getting earlier, Reed, as really it seems like this cycle people are trying to get ahead soon and just jump into the race and jump into the fray. So 2 big notable announcements. One is the Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina has launched her gubernatorial bid in South Carolina. Formerly a critic of President Trump, now very much a MAGA-based person, a politician who's really rallied around the president. Also, you do have Derek Dooley, who is the former football coach for Tennessee and for Georgia. He is the son of legendary University Georgia football coach Vince Dooley, really big. That's really big in Georgia. Football is, and who is, and now Dooley is actually very close to Governor Kemp, the popular Republican governor, who we've reported is probably not going to jump into a Senate race. But by Dooley jumping in, and he's already facing two other Republicans in the race, two House Republicans. But essentially having a Kemp person in the race, that could tacitly mean that the Republican governor of Georgia is potentially backing this Dooley effort. Reed.
All right, duly noted, pun intended. Fin Gómez, CBS News political director.
Love
nice
the puns.
to talk to you
Love
there
the puns. Keep
in
them coming.
Washington. Thank you, my friend.